Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Informed American Podcast, your trusted source for breaking down this week's most significant developments in politics, policy, and public affairs. I'm your host, Shelly Meyer, and today we're going to dive into the top stories shaping the United States this past week. Let's start with domestic policy and civil liberties. So we're starting with the deployment of troops to Portland, Oregon. Trump has ordered the deployment of U.S. military troops to Portland, Oregon to protect immigration and customs enforcement ICE facilities from what he describes as threats by domestic terrorists, including Antifa. This move has sparked widespread criticism from local leaders, including Portland Mayor Keith Wilson and Oregon Governor Tina Kotek, who argue that there is no justification for military involvement, citing a decline in violent crime in the city. Critics accuse Trump of attempting to provoke conflict, drawing parallels to his 2020 deployment during the George Floyd protest. The Pentagon was reportedly caught off guard, with officials scrambling for clarity on Trump's intentions. This information comes from Reuters. The crackdown on domestic terrorists. Trump directed his administration to crack down on backers of what he described as left-wing terrorism, naming two top Democratic donors as alleged financiers of violent protests against the government. This move has been met with fierce legal pushback from critics, and they all view it as a license for a broad crackdown on political opponents. This information comes from the Associated Press. Foreign policy and international relations. The strike against Venezuelan drug traffickers. Now, the Trump administration is reportedly preparing to conduct strikes against drug traffickers within Venezuela, targeting cartel leaders, members of the cartel, and drug labs using drones. This escalation follows recent U.S. strikes on Venezuelan drug boats, resulting in at least 17 deaths. The U.S. has also increased its military presence in the region, with additional naval ships and F-5 fighter jets. This info comes from the New York Post. And as an aside, the Venezuelan boats that were destroyed were not drug boats. They were regular fishermen. So there was a mistake, bad intel, something. China seeks concession on Taiwan. So Chinese President Xi Jinping is intensifying efforts to secure a major concession from Trump, a formal U.S. policy statement opposing Taiwanese independence. Xi sees this change as crucial in isolating Taiwan diplomatically and strengthening Beijing's leverage. The shift would make a departure from the U.S. strategic ambiguity under the One China policy. Does that sound familiar? Potentially weakening Taiwan's confidence in American support. This info comes from the Wall Street Journal. Now for economic developments. Good news, the stock market rebound. U.S. stock markets rebounded on Friday, breaking the 3-day losing streak. The S&P 500 rose by 0.6%. The Dow Jones gained 299 points, which is good, or 0.7%, and the NASDAQ added 0.4%, bringing all three indexes closer to their all-time high set earlier in the week. The rally was fueled by a report showing August inflation at 2.7%, in line with economist expectations, although it's still above the Federal Reserve's 2.2% target. This info comes from the Associated Press. And the second quarter GDP growth, also good. The U.S. economy grew at a surprising 3.8% annual rate in the second quarter of 2025. And this is up from earlier estimates of 3.3%, according to the Commerce Department. This marks a strong rebound from a 0.6% contraction in the first quarter, driven by a decline in imports and a robust 2.5% increase in consumer spending. That's a good sign. However, inflation and job creation remain concerns. This info also comes from the Associated Press. On to health and social policy. Cuts to scientific agencies. Now, this has been going on since January, so this is no surprise. It's it's still abhorrent. During Trump's current presidency, the scientific landscape of the United States has undergone significant upheaval. Agencies such as the CDC, NOAA, NIH, and EPA have seen mass layoffs, program cancellations, and leadership upheaval, thanks to DOGE. Critics warn this assault will have enduring consequences, potentially setting back scientific advancements by decades and compromising the nation's health, climate resilience, and technological leadership. This information comes from The Guardian. And I have to say, with the dangerous misinformation brought by RFK Jr. and the Tylenol incident brought on by Trump himself, things aren't looking so good. And the health of the people in the United States is not going to see positive impacts because of this. So let's keep an eye on what's going on. So that concludes our update on the United States this week. Stay tuned for more insights into the policies shaping America's future. I'm Shelly Meyer, and this has been the Informed American Podcast. Please consider liking and subscribing. I'll be back next week with more news in the United States and around the world.